Welcome back to CTV Morning Live. Joel's here from K3C Credit Counseling. We're taking your calls live on the air, 789-6559, extension 2803. Send us a question via email, via Facebook, via Twitter. Any way you need to get a hold of us. We're trying to get the best information out there. And I want to get right to it because we left off saying, okay, go to the bank lends you some money, they pay off your credit cards, you're making monthly payments. That's great. What happens when the bank says, sorry, can't do it?
Well, generally, people feel that, sheesh, I must be bankrupt. That's normally where people's heads go, because if the bank turns you down, you're having difficulty making your minimum payments, or even worse, you haven't made your minimum payments and they're starting to call. Those are very stressful times, and because bankruptcy is one of those things that have been, it's very, I'm not going to say popular, but everybody knows the word, right? Everybody understands at least what the word sort of kind of means. I find that people tend to think, well, I must be bankrupt then. And that may not be the case. And if you go straight to see a bankruptcy trustee, what they're going to do is they're going to talk to you about how a bankruptcy works and how a consumer proposal works. However, there may be other options out there that you would know about. Can you explain
what a consumer proposal is then? Because if they're...
Well, first I'll explain how a bankruptcy works. Okay. And when somebody decides that they're going bankrupt, they basically have to be insolvent. That means you can't have enough stuff to sell to pay off your debt. So if you have enough equity in your home to sell your house and pay off debt, you can't go bankrupt, you're not insolvent. Sell your house. Otherwise, they're going to take your house and sell it for you and pay off your debt. So you may as well but you have to be insolvent, which exactly that's what that means. So assuming that you don't have enough stuff to sell to pay off debt, what a bankruptcy does is once you sign on the dotted line, you enter into this sort of a bubble where you no longer have to pay your creditors. But there's a fee to go bankrupt. You have to pay the trustee. People think, oh, geez, I'm going bankrupt. It costs nothing and it's done. That's not necessarily true. Well, it's not true. There is a fee, and it's generally about $1,800, give or take, just to do a normal, easy bankruptcy. And what happens at that point is once you do get into that and you start making your payments to the trustee, you have to see a credit counselor twice for help with money management and stuff like that. You no longer have to pay your creditors. You are protected by this bubble. And as long as you're paying your fees and doing the things you have to do, 9 months later you can exit that bubble and be debt-free. There's issues with your credit report. However, there's a lot more complexities. That's very straightforward.
I was going to say, that little bubble sounds pretty nice for people.
Well, the thing is that that's if you make under $1,900 a month. So as soon as you make more, that's after taxes, as soon as you make more than that, you get into a situation where you have to make surplus payments. So let's keep it easy. Let's say you're allowed to make $2,000 and you actually make $3,000 a month, which is not that difficult to make. Well, if you make $3,000, you have $1,000 of surplus. Your payments to the trustee is now half of your surplus, so now it becomes $500 a month. And no, it's no longer for 9 months. Now they've extended it that you're paying for an extra year if it's your first time bankrupt. So at $500 a month for 21 months, you're close to $10,000 just to go bankrupt in that particular circumstance. If you make $4,000 a month, well, now you're up to a lot more. And if it's your second bankruptcy, you pay that $500 for 36 months. So now you're up to $18,000 to go bankrupt. So there's, as easy as it sounds on the lower end, if you're not making that kind of money, you don't have any assets, sure, it's fairly straightforward. But as soon as you get involved with, if you have a decent paying job or you have some assets, it all gets liquidated. I mean, there are exceptions as well. And you have to make payments that a lot of times, is more than the amount that somebody owes.
That the debt is in itself.
Right, so if you owe 12 grand and it's cost you 18,000 to go bankrupt, or even 10,000 to go bankrupt, what's the purpose? So, and then you get into the question that we asked, if you do a bankruptcy, the whole idea is how much dollars are your creditors getting? So if you owe $50,000, and with those surplus payments, and if some of the assets you had liquidated, if it comes up to, let's say, 30 cents on the dollar, so assuming that the person owes $50,000 with those payments and everything, it comes, there might be $20,000 in the pot that gets distributed to creditors through a bankruptcy. Somebody might say, well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer my creditors a better deal than if I go bankrupt. So I know that if my creditors get $20,000 on a $50,000 debt, they're going to get 40 cents on the dollar. So I'm going to offer my creditors 50 cents on the dollar through a consumer proposal, and you get up to 5 years to make payments that equal 50 cents on the dollar. So those are all things that are very intricate, and it's a matter of figuring out, A, what is the dollar amount that a creditor would get if you go bankrupt, and then say, all right, can you afford to give a better deal than that, which would be a higher percentage of that dollar, but you have a longer time to pay it? And that's a consumer proposal, which allows you to avoid going bankrupt, which is what a lot of people want to do.
And which is where you guys really come into play in terms of figuring out those numbers and helping people do that.
We figure it out, yeah. And then we talk about a third option, which is a debt management program, which allows somebody to pay back all of their debts.
Keep a great credit, keep their credit rating, get it all consolidated into one. You guys are able to. All
of these options that I'm talking about, Leanne, I don't want to send the wrong message.
No.
They affect your credit. It's the nature of the game. As soon as you get into a position where you're using a third party, whether it's a credit counselor or a bankruptcy trustee, it's going to affect your credit. It affects it at different levels, but there is an effect on your credit file.
Get the information. I mean, there's been so many things at this point right now. Hopefully, I don't want no one's panicking right now, but getting the right information is crucial. There's so much information on your website as well. We do have to take a commercial break. There's a list of how you can get a hold of us via phone call, via email, via Facebook, via Twitter, and also the information for K3C Credit Counseling as well if you want to look up their website or make the call right now. We'll be back right after this.